I would like to roll into my emotional pain index theory. Okay, so a little bit of the last episode, but we'll recap. Physical pain index. It's essentially just your tolerance to pain. It's an electrical nerve system sent to your brain to tell you like, hey,
This hurts.
this ain't right.
Yeah.
You know, and then it differs person to person by like a solid margin, but like it's pretty standard. You know, like it kind of depends on like your mental capacity for pain and how you, and it's also a social standard too if you want to think about it. You know, like men, they're like, oh, you guys should be like have a higher pain tolerance, and then women give birth.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my gosh, I hurt myself, and then they're like, baby, and it's like, okay, so you probably didn't actually hurt yourself when you like hurt your wrist.
Yeah.
So anyway, so the emotional pain index is essentially the same concept, different source. So I tried to generalize it as much as possible. So it's your tolerance to mental illness.
Yeah.
Maybe illness isn't the right word. Mental issues, something like that. Mental controversy, where have you? But so it's emotions are a chemical imbalance in your brain, right?
For sure.
So it's not. So to me, electricity is very simple. High potential to low potential. You go from positive to negative.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I think they see it goes the other way. But anyway, it's a one-way street. Like, I felt that. That was, my brain said, hey, there's pressure here. That kind of hurts. Don't do it again. You know? And then your brain, you're like, it's like a hallucinogen almost. Like it's releasing chemicals for certain things, and you can, now that we're overstimulated because of social media and everything, they're like we're getting so many reactions to things that like, I think that's like the root of most mental illness.
Yeah.
It's just overstimulation to things that we aren't built to do, you know?
Yeah.
So I want to hear your thoughts before I keep rolling into it. So
I don't really know how to. I don't know how to like connect or like relate to it other than like the way I see it is like, and can relate to it is like with working out and dealing with my own mental illnesses and like stuff I deal with like depression,
Yeah.
anxiety, suicidal thoughts, dark thoughts. Like I'm the type of guy like if I'm going through pain in the middle of a workout, I've trained myself to like either just keep to push through it. And I feel like your brain is it is a muscle.
yeah,
It's the best muscle you have. Like that's what you. So essentially, you do the same thing. In my mind, whenever you're going through sad, happy, or sad, dark thoughts, angry, like it's just in a sense a workout or a trial or what's the word I'm looking for? A obstacle, like
tribulation.
yeah, trials and tribulations. Depression and anxiety to me is trials and tribulations, in my opinion, in my circumstances. But, like, pain, to me, it doesn't last forever. So I know that it has an ending. That's physical pain, that's emotional pain, and I dreaded this one because like there's so much to it,
Yeah,
and I'm currently
it's
going
a
through
Pandora's
it.
box that you really don't want to unleash. You got to get really personal to.
Well, I don't mind getting. I'm an open book. I'm shameless. Like I'll talk about anything. But the thing is, it's like there's so much to it, and I'm currently going through the process of doing all that. Like
Same.
when
I'm the same way, bro.
I make sure I do like gut checks once a week where if it's a workout I don't want to do, like I make sure I do it because I know it's just going to make me a better person on the other side, and I'll feel better. And it goes like through everything. Like, well, so it comes down to like with depression. Like one of my things is I know if it's something I don't want to do, like I need to do it. And I've like to dumb it down, like the days you don't want to work out are the days you need to work out.
Yeah.
The times that you don't want to deal with something is when you have to deal with something. But I've also related that to you guys. I don't think you guys would understand. It's like the days you want to drink are the days you probably shouldn't drink. It's like, I don't know how to, I've thought about all this shit a million times. I just don't know how to like connect it and put it together. But like, I don't.
We can definitely do a follow-up episode.
For sure.
Yeah. And there's
This is
like
definitely a really big topic.
it is a
This
big
is
topic.
huge.
This is
Because
why
This single subject is what I want to write my book on.
I guess the reason I like the physical pain, because I know to me it helps with my emotional pain. Like it teaches they both help each other.
Okay, so real quick, I think that like physical science and like mental science are very much tied, and
Yeah.
it's not an exact science, but you can learn how to like correlate and like solve your issues by using physical science, because the way something becomes a science is if you do it over and over again, you get the same output, or not, you get the same reaction. So it's like when you put something into an equation, it's not a formula until it's proven, right? So like we were talking about this the other day. It's like if I push and you push back, that's equal and opposite. But like there's so many, and like that's why I love going through my engineering classes and I learn a new law or like a new formula for something, and like how, and that's why I think this is a rabbit hole, but I'm gonna go down it. I think
Jump in.
math is like huge to like understanding like patterns and algorithms and like how people function, because life is so predictable. We're like, oh, I'm never gonna need math, you know, and it's like yes, you do. You need it to understand, because okay, and then biggest mind blown time in college is when you get higher up in math, you realize that you don't get direct answers. You know, like you're like, oh,
2 plus 2 is
x
4.
x equals 2y. What does y equal? Y equals 1/2 x. You know, like that's simple. That's easy. You can do that. You get up into higher level math, and they're like, oh, if you have a net pressure suction head of this, and you have a 100 horsepower pump, and your well is 1,000 feet deep, they're like, oh, you're like, oh, I think it's 20 to 25 watts that you need to input on. Like, you know, so it's like, and then there's a tolerance. So it's like it's not exact at all. You're just estimating.
Yeah.
Calculus is like estimating curves.
Yeah.
So it's like once you understand that math is not like cut and dry, and it's like estimating and like figure things out, and then you get into stats, and then you're like, it just unlocks parts of your brain that like helps you understand just like society, and I think it can help you understand your emotional sickness or your emotional issues. So you're like, whenever like you push someone and then something else happens and it just chain reacts, and you're like, if I could have just stopped, thought about it, and then like tried to estimate what would happen, that would probably stop me from doing that action.
But here's the thing about my theory on emotional
Full
pain.
send. Pull me out of the rabbit hole.
So, when you are dealing with emotions, I'll start on this part and then I'll try to bring it in. So, when you're dealing with emotions, you are dealing with something that is almost completely artificial, like your thoughts that are made up. And they never come into being until an action is taken. So, a lot of the biggest part of dealing with, in my opinion, dealing with emotions is stopping the physical action to come after. So whenever I say I bottle, like I was telling you, I bottle up my emotions.
Right.
I don't physically not ever think about them. I just refuse to bring in action from what emotion
You
I
understand
feel.
them, but you use them for fuel.
Yes. So, but also, I don't know if this is everybody, but just in my own personal emotions, my emotions demand immediate response. They demand immediate gratification.
It's almost
So
a
whenever-
fight or flight.
Yeah. So
Kind of
whenever I feel an emotion, and the stronger I feel it, the faster I feel I have to make an action. So like what Dylan was saying, like on the days that you feel like you shouldn't, you should, or whatever type thing, that's the same type of situation that I kind of deal with in mine. Like whenever I get so enraged that like I know for a fact I could just destroy everything in either a conversation or bring it into full physical altercation. Yeah, I know that that's probably an emotion I should not let out of its box. So whenever I say bottle it up, I don't mean bottle it up and like
So you're
never
more
think about it again. It's more or less bottle it up and lock it inside of me and try to put like some type of rationalization grasp over top of it to hold it suppressed. And the reason I don't like to talk about it to anybody is because the immediate rationalization that I did is just a temporary fix. So if somebody were to bring it back out, then I have to completely reassess the entire situation on what I just got into, and 98% of the time, it will bring me like 10 times over what I was originally, because then I'm like, yeah, I actually had every single right to feel that emotion.
I have the next bullet point is emotional pain index reset. And it's when your reaction to pain, or you forget your reaction to pain, and then you forget like how you respond. And it's like because you'd rather not go down that path at all, but then feel that feeling.
Yeah.
And so now when the algorithm try to be smart and end up looking stupid. The algorithm in your brain clicks, says, hey, this happened. And it says, okay, so I think about it in code. And, oh man, after I say this thought, I have to write it down because I'm going to forget. And this is like a whole other podcast idea. But, so, when you think about something in code, it says, if this, then this, and then do this, and then it loops back. And then, like, if it can't compile the thought, it crashes. So, if you allow your feelings to reset, you're not gonna program that path to a solution. You're just gonna crash.
Yeah.
Like you have to. That's why I say feel the feeling. And I know it sounds really cheesy. You have to feel the feeling so you can create that path, and you're shoveling that road, and you're like you're creating the pathway to an actual solution, whether or not that solution brings you joy or a learning experience. You have that pathway now. So it's like, you have to feel the feeling.
Well, so it's actually, this is number 2.
Just keep going. I gotta type something else.
There was something else I want to talk about.
Full send.
I don't know the complete science and verbatim about it, but
I have it in my notes.
You're supposed to do that. Like,
Feel the feeling?
You have, because if you have an emotion, you need to like, it's basically be in the moment. Like you need, if you're feeling sad and you just bottle up and you try to push it off, it's bad. I don't know everything about why, but you're supposed, like, you need to indulge that moment and like you need to feel it. Because I think just from personal experience, if you just don't feel it, it's probably going to come up later and explode later. And instead, just like, I guess, for instance, your depression or hate, whatever you're going through, like feel it, understand it, experience it, and like practice through it. And I don't know, but that is like, it's a big thing in the like mental health field, like, or like area. Like you're supposed to feel that. You're not supposed to just let it go. Well, you eventually let it go, but like I know a bunch of people who say like, I never understood it before until recently, like take that emotion and feel it. Don't just like brush it off. Like feel it, but then at the end of it, like focus on the positive things. And so,
because I feel like if you don't feel it and you don't have that road to a solution, it's just going to be an unknown. Which now, instead of just depression, you have anxiety, and now you don't know what's going to happen. So it just creates more issues. And it's like, because then when you feel that feeling, you're like, hey, we've done this before. Turn 15 degrees left, go down the road, solution. I might not like the solution, but it's a solution. So it's like, you feel it, you know it, you feel it, you know it, and then you're like, you become tolerant to that pain that it brings you. Because this is exactly what I'm going through right now with, this is going to sound cheesy as hell, but with the breakup that happened. Like, this was a long time ago I broke up with this girl. But like, first breakup, shit happens. Or the first heartbreak, shit happens. But it's like, every damn time I see a red SUV, now it's just like, hey, that's a red SUV. Because every single time I'd see one, I'd be like, oh, that's her. And I'm like, it's not even the same model. Like,
believe me, I honestly feel like your first heartbreak is almost identical for every person to every person.
Oh yeah.
It always cuts just as deep from one person to the next.
Yeah.
So it really, like, and it's not until you truly feel it that you know, like, yeah, that was actually my legitimate first heartbreak. That you
Shit stings.
Some people, like, when you're in a relationship and you like kind of like somebody and you enjoy their company or whatever, and it ends and you're just like, oh yeah, it kind of hurts. You don't actually have your heart broke. Like, you may have cracked it, but it's not like a full send, like, shattered your entire being to where you are literally searching inside of yourself for some type of remedy to get you out of the emotional sickness.
Like starting a podcast and rebuilding your chart completely.
So,
but here's my thing.
Not in a
on
crisis, you're in a crisis.
that. If you are, like in my case, where your emotions demand an immediate reaction or an immediate action to be taken from feeling that emotion, if that is the depth, because it's not that I don't feel emotions as they full are when they come, I just feel them. I do feel them, is what I'm saying. I feel them in full wrath instantaneously. So I have every piece of that emotion for a solid until I can get it under wraps. So, like, for me, I don't ever have to try to dig through that to get it to another side or to feel a solution.
Yeah.
What I have to do is lock that so that whatever I do, I don't bring anything out into a physical being with saying something or doing something that I shouldn't have done in the first place, all because I felt that emotion in its entirety. So instead I bottle it up and then slowly throughout however long of a period of time start rationalizing or understanding what happened to get me to that place and what I can do better to either change it from either even getting to that emotion in the first place, whether that means like somebody attacking you personally and you change it to trying to figure out why they're actually attacking you in the first place. Like, do they themselves have somewhat of the same issue that they're attacking you from, or do they have an issue that was brought on by somebody else that they are ventilating through themselves to you? So, like, instead of trying to...
Every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
Exactly. But you can be the ground in like, talking about electricity, you can be the ground.
Yeah.
You can be the one who takes it and just disperses it, which is like leads into like personality types. Like I was telling you, I'm a helper, so like I enjoy helping people. I enjoy digging through people's problems with them to help them find a solution or some type of way out of it so that they can better their lives or be better from the situation rather than watch somebody just dig themselves into a 10-foot hole and never be able to get back out because they're already too far gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there is definitely something to be said about some type of bottling up. Doesn't mean that you necessarily have to lock it away in a cage and never think about it again. Just if you are the type of person who, when you feel something, like if you feel suicidal, like if you ever get suicidal, you don't want to make an immediate action out of it. Like, no matter what, I honestly think that if anybody has like a full suicidal send and you get down in that rabbit hole where you literally feel like the world is against you and you are the last person on the face of the planet who should ever be alive in the first place, you know, like, that's not the time to make a decision to be alive.
Don't make a permanent decision for a temporary feeling.
Exactly, right. And that's what I'm saying.
Maybe go get some ice cream. And,
It all comes down, basically what you're saying is like, it all comes down to like understanding yourself, others, and then realizing that like different people are different.
Different strokes for different folks.
They cope different and everything. And
it all comes from self-awareness though.
Yes.
And like
that
is the one thing that
success,
helped me.
Happiness, like it's so important.
That is the only reason I have survived and like gotten as far as I am now, is becoming self-aware.
Yeah.
Because if I never did, I probably wouldn't even be here. Honestly.
You just have to, like, when you do something, you have to stop. And this is, like, to me, the first step in becoming self-aware. You do something, you stop, and you're like, okay, I need to think, at minimum, 5 steps back of why I did that.
Well, it's
And that's
also
that's going to take you
to-
like 30 minutes to figure out. So
also
it's like,
helps not being impulsive too. Like,
right.
Impulsive can help a lot in certain situations, but like with feelings, I guess, and emotions, like that was my big problem. Was like being an impulsive person. I would do a lot of stupid shit and like a lot of stupid decisions. So like it didn't help. Like so that's where self-awareness comes in and recognizing certain things. Because if you keep doing the same shit and you're not recognizing what you're doing wrong or what you're doing right, then you're never like gonna help yourself.
Yeah.
And to play the devil's advocate on what you said,
You like doing that.
I do. I do really enjoy it because I like to make people think, and I like to make people full think out everything that they said. So, in my opinion, fear of having an emotion will help you to stop before you get that far.
But does that fear have to come from an outside source, or is it within you?
Within you, within inside yourself.
But I see. I think we have that fear because of like the way we were raised. It's in the church. It's those ethics and morals that we got without even like asking for them.
Yeah.
You know, because you like, and I can't talk for everyone because everyone's different. But like, we were absolutely, and like brainwashed is such a hard term, and I think it should be more loosely used. But like, we were trained. That's like a fancy brainwash.
Yeah.
We were trained to think that way.
Yeah.
So it's like that's where that fear comes from. We're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
But like wrong kind of depends on your definition of right.
Yeah.
So
It also fucks with a lot of people too, because like if you grow up constantly thinking like you're doing something wrong when really it's not like as bad as you think, like as you were brought up to believe.
it weighs heavy on your damn heart.
Yeah, it's
For
fucked
no
up,
reason.
and that's why I like had a big struggle with churches and religion for a long time, and had to go on a search for a while because I was like, there's a lot of. Oh, fuck, that's a whole nother conversation.
There's a lot of variables.
Oh, we could rehash the whole religion and faith
Oh.
thing.
I would gladly.
I would
But-
love to do that.
Yeah.
That'd be great, because I could.
Let's take a break. You
Oh,
can
I
check-
had fucking one more thing
okay,
about
one
the
more.
pain tolerance
Send it,
skill.
send it.
So, I don't really know how it goes into everything, but it's basically mental toughness, and I'm right now in the midst of
So like resilience.
yeah. So like I used to believe that like some people are like definitely some people are born with mental toughness, and then some people have to like make it, and then some people just don't have it. But I personally think that like since your brain is a muscle, like you can teach, reteach, and break through barriers that like you have set on yourself. Because I've definitely put barriers on myself, and that's why I like working out and kicking my own ass, is because I take it and say, as an example, the way it's helped me is like in boot camp we did like 300 plus burpees in one sitting, and so ever since we've had to do burpees in a workout, or my mindset is like I've done worse than this. In the middle of like I'm dying and everything, I'm like I've done worse than this, and like it's gonna end soon. And I've correlated that with like mental struggles. I'm like appreciating like the pain and everything like going through it, because I'm like this sucks, but like I've done worse and it's not gonna last forever. And I think that's the problem with a lot of people, is that they put a bottle cap on themselves when they really can actually just like, I don't think there should be a pain tolerance. It fucking hurts, like, but if you constantly use your muscle and hurt yourself, because that's basically what you're doing when you're working out and like breaking your body. It's like you're breaking down your muscle, you're hurting yourself. It's to grow. So why shouldn't your brain is exactly the same thing, which all the military special forces, that's why I look up to them, is because they break the barrier and use this Navy SEAL said it perfectly. He said that they use your body as how do you say? He said they use their body as a mental toughness tool, but they're using it to like toughen their mind. They're using their body to toughen their mind.
Yeah.
Because if you ever seen and heard what they go through, like through that process, it's like fucking disturbing. Yeah. And
that's like Dan Gable, right? Is he the guy that was like, if you wrestle in life, everything else is easy? Yeah. It's like, it gives you, even if like you don't have that hard ass of a coach, or like it's not like the craziest thing in the world, it lets you know that you can overcome these things.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you're doing wall sits with a 45-pound plate on your legs, but it's
it's gonna end.
It's gonna end. And
You're not gonna be sitting on the wall forever. You have to go home.
I'm just mad at myself that you guys came up with like that same theory, but I had to go through the Marines and engineering school just to come up with that. Like, I was like, oh, I'm enlightened, and I'm like 5 years later. Like,
I think. Well, I don't know. I think you should put yourself through like.
you put yourself through hell, so that way the rest of life is simple.
Well, I don't. Well, and then another thing that I learned from somebody else is like the problem is that people will give themselves a finish line, but you kind of do damage to yourself if you do that, because then you kind of just quit. You basically just quit afterward. Like you can't. You got to keep.
Who?
In a sense, keep going. But
That's like
Who's the Lincoln lawyer? What's that guy's name?
oh, Matthew McConaughey.
Matthew McConaughey. He's like, he was asked like, oh, who's your hero? And he's like, oh, me in 10 years. And then he's like, those same people asked me in 10 years. They're like, so are you your hero now? And he's like, no. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's all, my hero's me in 10 years. And he's like, you can never reach you have to keep extending your goal. You have to keep pushing yourself. And it's like the whole thing with the alligator too. They're like, oh, when is an alligator at its most vulnerable state? After it eats, it gets content, it gets full, and it goes into paralysis. And it's like, stay hungry.
I actually had that theory whenever I was in high school, and that's what pushed me through wrestling. It's like whenever I'd go on my runs, I would imagine my opponent, whoever I thought was, he would be in front of me, and I'd set a goal, and I'd be like, I'm going to race that dude to that stop sign, and he will not beat me there. But very rarely did I ever let him actually come close, or me come close to actually beating him in my head. And I would keep putting him out in front of me and be like, he's well on his way to getting to this next spot of the turn. And I'd run there and try to beat him or catch up to him, but I would never let myself actually beat him until I got home and I took off all my clothes and I was sitting in the shower, and it's like, I actually probably did just as well, if not better, than what he would have done.
I do that on physical fitness tests.
Do what others won't today, so you can do what others can't tomorrow. Yeah. That's when I heard that, I was like, that makes fucking perfect sense.
That's how I teach. Whenever I'm coaching, that's what I try to. I try to instill the thought of their opponent, and not that it's somewhere you could actually apply in life, but it is kind of a life applicable thing, being that you have a goal to beat something or to be better than something, but imagine that your opponent is watching you. And I think that would change a great amount of people's lives. If you thought that the person, you're going in for a job interview, right? You have the interviewer in front of you, and you wake up on a day-to-day basis, right? What are you doing to show that interviewer that you are actually worthy of the job that you're applying for? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
The steps you're taking to even get there.
That's why I want to be a teacher and a coach so bad.
Sure.
I want to retire by 45 so I can go here or wherever and be a coach or be a professor or be a teacher. So money's not an option, or not an issue. I just want to be a teacher because I want to show them that their goals are not that far off. Because when I was in high school watching college football, I was like, man, those guys are on the next level. I'm never going to reach that level. It's impossible to reach that level. And no one unlocked that part inside me to be like, look. And it might have been because, I was prepubescent and it wasn't this size when I graduated high school, but I just want to prove, I want to unlock that part in kids' brains that my goal to be at that level is still possible because A, I have time, and B, I can outwork anybody if I want to.
For sure.
Because if someone would have told me that, they're like, you could play college football if you work hard enough. Because at that point it seemed like, God didn't pick me to play college football. But it's like, I very well could have. Because by the time I got there, I would have been fine.
Yeah.
Because I grew
Because you would
like
have already
6
taken
freaking
all
inches
the
senior
steps.
year. Like, I would have already had the work ethic, would have already had the skills, and then I could apply them. But no one told me that.
Well, I think it also leads to that your biggest enemy is your, like, you can have it opponent.
Oh,
is
absolutely.
yourself, like, because you will convince yourself of, like,
Yeah.
that you're either tired or that you're done, when literally, like, you still have so much more in you and you can do
like,
more.
Yeah, you're your own worst enemy because, like, and you're your own
I will-
biggest critic
I will-
too.
yeah.
Because like every single time, like Kyron and I will do a little picking and grinning and like sing and stuff, and I'm like, this is horrible, and Kyron's like, this is good, because like he's hearing it from an outside perspective, but me, I'm like, I don't want to be at this level for the rest of my life. Like, I want to be on the next level.
Yep.
So it's like what I do is all like, now I've started turning the radio down like a lot to where I can actually hear my voice. So it's like I can learn what I need to change in my voice to be where I want to be. But then like other people hear it and they're like, this is so good. And then I'm like, but I don't like it. So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's the same thing whenever I'm building anything.
Yeah.
I always want to craft it to perfection. Like, I want somebody to look
It
at
gives
it.
you anxiety
and-
when it's not.
Yeah.
Does it do that? You're like,
Yeah, they can't find a single flaw, and nor could I. Like, I built it, and I could not find the flaw in the project I did.
but you're still like,
The whole time I'm building anything, it's just like, I fucked that up, I fucked that up, I fucked that up, I can fix it, I can fix it, I can fix it.
Remember those-
I can fix
you
it.
remember those like Christmas plays we would do as kids?
Yeah.
They're like, if you mess up, guess what? The audience doesn't have the script. They don't know what you're supposed to say.
Yeah.
You could get up there and bumble on like an idiot for an hour and they'd be like,
Wow.
nice. Like they have no idea.
Well, Karen's thing basically just goes into perspective, because I can only relate that to drawing. That's why, like,
This perspective's huge.
when it came to drawing, like, I would draw and then I would see the perfection, like, imperfections, but then if I would show it to somebody else, like, yeah, I love it, dude, it looks fucking fantastic. Like, no, like, I messed up here and here, and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, so
Yeah.
it's weird. It's weird how you see your own.
There's only actually a few things, like, there's very few imperfections that actually happen that everybody else can see. But you, on the other hand, could feel when you made that imperfection and what happened to cause it. So it literally creates a burn inside your brain.
And
so
every time you look at it, you get that same
see it,
feeling.
yeah. You see it and you feel the burn. But if you ultimately look back at it and like took a step back and looked at it, you're like,
This is good.
yeah, this is all like this is what I was looking for.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Short break.
Anyway, that's a wrap.